but it's the lowest summation of places or total number of points. So score 7 points for winning each heat, 6 for second, and then they sum the total, and the highest point getters will make the final tomorrow in each of the classifications. So Texas here is certainly likely to make the final tomorrow, as they won their first heat this morning and leading here by about 7-8 seats over Syracuse. Syracuse, which was third, Virginia was first in their heat, so that the battle we start looking at points will certainly be a driver for placement for tomorrow in the lanes.
And these are pretty fast conditions. They're rowing in a pretty strong tailwind, so the feel of the boat is a little bit different from the athlete's perspective. It feels a little bit lighter, and it might be harder to feel like you're connected to the water, so it's a little bit more of a technical challenge rowing into a tailwind like this than it would be if you're rowing into a headwind, and you can really feel how heavy it is when you are in the water.
So here, just past 1,000, you see the camera change there. Texas just almost a full length there over Syracuse. So Texas continuing to move just a little bit, and Virginia maybe 8 seats back of Syracuse, a battle for second. So third 500 that we've talked about how important it is for everyone. Certainly there, it looks in fourth place is it's Indiana out there in lane 5. And then a little ways back to that battle for fifth between Minnesota over there, and then again the near side, a little bit tough to see with the angle. Maybe an edge there to Clemson over Minnesota and Central Florida. Just through this, we'll give you quick times on the first heat of the third varsity 8. Ohio State's novices won in 6:40.3. Wisconsin's freshmen 6:41.6. Louisville 6:45.2. Oklahoma 6:48.2. Washington State's 6:49.4. Virginia's B-Boat 6:58.3, and then Duke 7:01.3. So looking at times a little bit faster than this morning. I think about 5 or 6 seconds faster than, actually it's probably about 8 to 10 seconds faster for those heats. And this wind really making a difference to see that speed.
Yeah, definitely some quick conditions out there.
So at this point, that's I believe it's Indiana there in that shot. And so you see the boats on the other side coming up the course to prep for their races. It's Virginia there, looks to be in third, still trying to come back on Syracuse in second. And there's Syracuse there, and then Syracuse staying in contact with Texas as well. Again, a little deceiving here as we get to about 7:50 to go with that spread between from first to third. But Texas is about a length up on Syracuse. And Megan, just if you can hear, you see some whitecaps there. You see that they have a little more room for their catches. And just talk about that adjustment. We've talked about dealing with them, but how much are you able to adjust the end heights as you deal with the blades and the wind?
You can actually adjust them a great deal. The trick is not to adjust them too much, though, because in the boat you don't want to make too many drastic changes, because it affects how the boat runs out. So these girls will be working on trying to stay really locked into the woman in front of them and what she's doing, and taking their blade out and circling around with that woman in front of them to try and keep some stability in the boat. So they should be able to make some adjustments as they go down, and the coxswain can cue them for small adjustments, but they're not they're likely not thinking about that at this third 500, I'm guessing.
So here now we're actually in the last probably 250 there. You see the orange buoys change. Again, Texas still in the lead, and a little tough to tell at Virginia versus Syracuse. Syracuse certainly had the edge coming into that last 500, but with that angle, Virginia maybe coming back just a little bit there. We'll know fairly soon here. But again, Texas up by a length, just over a length, maybe a quarter length of water over Syracuse in second, then Virginia a little bit back in third, and spread really first to third. So expect all three of these boats to move on to tomorrow's final, which is probably the most important thing from their perspective. So Texas here, maybe a length and a quarter up as they head into the last 150 or so. And Virginia does look to be moving back about 2 seats behind Syracuse there for that race for second. So Texas through, and it's going to be close here, but Syracuse has that edge. And then maybe a second to Virginia in third.
Good push by Virginia there at the end.
Yeah, they really came back there about 5-6 seats in the last couple hundred. Looks like fourth will be Indiana. And then next here, that battle between for fifth, Minnesota, Clemson, and Central Florida. Looks like Clemson is in that fifth spot with Central Florida and Minnesota battling for sixth. So again, times will start to pop up here and compare as the wind's certainly pretty strong here. Looks like Minnesota maybe caught a little bit of a digger there, but they'll still get across the finish line in sixth. And then Central Florida will be in seventh. So that's a third varsity 8. Well, next lineup, got a extra minute or two between the each event. So for the second varsity 4, this race will have 6 boats. Central Florida's B entry will be in lane 1. Penn will be in lane 2. Syracuse lane 3. Ohio State lane 4. UCLA lane 5. And Tennessee lane 6. So now, Megan, I'm going to kind of pick on you a little bit, but again, moving from 8s to 4s now in this kind of wind, how different a feel is that for you in each boat?
The smaller the boat, the more you're going to feel the conditions. There's a little bit less of a buffer between you and what's going on outside the boat. So these 4s will definitely be feeling the quickness of the race and the instability that kind of this wind and the choppy water creates. There are less people in the boat to help set it up, so it's gonna be a challenge for these women.
You look at that first 250 or so, where the launch is sitting about 200 in or so.
Looks pleasant.
Yeah, the start's not bad. It's probably a little bit deceiving. The wind's always worse than it maybe looks on camera. But again, when you see white, it's usually rough.
Yeah.
This isn't too bad, but certainly gets in the middle a bit challenging. So again, the winning time from that first heat of the third varsity 8 was 6:40 or so, 6:40.3. So we'll look to compare that with Texas's time in that second heat as that pops up here. So you can even see a gust there, Megan, at about maybe the 50-meter mark.
Yeah, these coxswains will definitely be adjusting for the wind that's blowing across their bow. In the 4s, the coxswain is in the bow of the boat, so we'll be crossing the finish line first instead of in 8s. The coxswain sits in the stern and crosses the finish line last. So the coxswain in a little bit better of a position to see what kind of a line they're taking, but again, they don't see the rowers, unlike in the 8, which is kind of interesting. The coxswain is looking at all of the rowers in an 8 versus in the 4 when they're just looking at the clear water ahead of them.
So it looks like we have a start here in the first heat of the second varsity 4. Again, Central Florida's B entry in lane 1, Penn in lane 2, Syracuse lane 3, Ohio State lane 4, UCLA lane 5, Tennessee's A entry in lane 6. Ohio State was the one heat winner in the morning sessions. Most of these other boats were fairly competitive in behind them, but Ohio State's certainly the favorite in this race. Had one of the fastest times this morning.
Looks like all the boats have gotten off the line cleanly and are passing through the breakage zone.
And just while we're kind of starting here, well, we'll give you this and then we'll give you some times. But Ohio State a couple seats up there. Looks like Penn may be in second, followed by a close race between Central Florida and Syracuse for that. Well, actually also out there, it's always a little hard to see, but UCLA and Tennessee, everyone's really in that mix early on. This is a great shot. We can see kind of the bow numbers and the intensity early on in the race.
You can see the coxswains looking across at each other there. They're telling their crews what's happening, where they're located, how many seats up or down they might be, and if they're moving into the field.
So Central Florida may be slightly off the pace. Ohio State ahead of the pace, and then that battle for 2nd through 5th is actually a really good race there across with Penn, Syracuse, UCLA, and Tennessee, all very tight for that second spot. But Ohio State expect to have a pretty good race here if you base it off times from this morning compared to the competition. So it looks like lanes 2, 3, and 5 there. You can see the bow balls and the bow markers. Penn, Syracuse, and UCLA all in that battle for second. Tennessee maybe just slightly off the pace there in 5th, and then Central Florida in 6th on the near side. So it looks like you'd see some gusts there again. They're kind of rowing through the gusts, which maybe makes it a little bit more reasonable for them, and knowing it's a shorter race, a little more manageable for them to focus on what's happening. So Ohio State, let's say a length up, and then second's going to be Syracuse by, let's say, a seat and a half over Penn, and then Penn maybe a half seat over UCLA. In here, we'll just give the times real quickly from the third varsity 8 heat 2. Texas novices were 6:34.1, so a faster race that second heat. Syracuse 6:39.2. Virginia's A boat 6:40 flat. Indiana was in 4th at 6:50.8. Clemson was 5th at 7:06.1. Minnesota was 6th at 7:10.6. And Central Florida was 7th at 7:16.9. So again, Texas has had the fastest third varsity 8 time with 6:34. So in that time, Ohio State is now continuing to move out, and their time was fastest by about 20 seconds or so this morning. So certainly expect them to dominate it, assuming they can handle the conditions, which they are at this point.
Syracuse, it looks like they're starting to make a little bit of a push to try and push away from that field to create some distance and place themselves firmly in second place and go after Ohio State in front of them. But those other crews are really holding on.
So Syracuse, let's say 4 seats up on Pennsylvania, and Penn's starting to move maybe just a little bit on UCLA over there. on this side, and then Central Florida staying in that mix there for that 5th spot between Central Florida and Tennessee. Again, handling these conditions, flat conditions maybe, you don't want to say fairer because everyone has the same conditions, but certainly how you handle flat may be different than how you handle a little bit of wind. And to the average person at home, this may not look windy, it might look like nice sailing weather, but for a rower it's maybe a little bit more complicated to manage the conditions.
Yeah, these boats are very volatile. Any little wake in the water or wind can move them around quite a bit, and you have to have experience to be able to adjust to that. And it's challenging. It just takes time to learn how to adjust to the varying conditions and make sure that you're still doing something towards the positive momentum of your boat.
Yeah, I don't know if you can liken it to anything like a gymnast being on a balance beam or what it is to balance a boat, but it's certainly a challenge to keep the stability so that you can actually put some power onto what's going on.
Exactly.
So here again, Ohio State out of the frame. They're certainly ahead by a decent margin here, but Syracuse confidently in second. They were 4th in their heat this morning, but this will certainly help them to qualify for the grand final tomorrow.
Penn not going anywhere though.
Yeah, Penn certainly in 3rd. Let's say 5-6 seats off the pace. But they haven't, as you're alluding to, they haven't fallen off at all. They're certainly still pushing them and giving them a good drive throughout. So Ohio State, let's say 3 lengths up on the field. I'm still pushing because they want to set those times so everyone's aware of them tomorrow to succeed. So Ohio State, let's say 3 lengths up. You can see them still. Water's pretty bouncy for everyone. Maybe the guinea pigs coming out here to deal with the waves.
But they're just all credit to these women. They're powering through it and continuing to push down the course here, in spite of these conditions.
So we should be switching here to the 500 camera here in just a few seconds. And so Ohio State again, when we turn, we expect Ohio State to be up by 3 or 4 lengths on the turn. This will be Syracuse again. Still, let's say 6 seats, but Megan, you're absolutely right that Penn's been staying right with them that whole way. That's
a good battle for second place. It's going to come down, I think, to the last 500 meters.
So as they enter the last 500 there, we'll switch cameras in a second. And then 4th place still, UCLA over there on the near to the fans, but far side from the camera with the blue and gold. And then again, the battle for 5th between Tennessee and Central Florida. We probably won't know that one till we get to the end shot with the finish line camera.
You can see the splashing in the boat. The conditions are getting it opens up right here in this last 500. So they really have to be in control of their blades and try and prevent them from smacking the water as much as possible.
So again, these gusts of wind, you see in that 350 to 300 meter mark, some white caps there. I mean, that would be hard for anyone at any level to be able to manage.
Yes, definitely.
So Ohio State, let's say 4 to 5 lengths up, continue to push away and certainly showing their dominance. They've won every race they've been in so far. So Ohio State doing well here. Again, that's Syracuse. You can see that battle for second going on with Syracuse and Penn. Syracuse maybe moved out a bit more here. Let's give them a full length lead over Penn. As we head to the last 150, 200 or so there. Penn still confidently in 3rd, and then UCLA in 4th. So Ohio State pushing to get to the finish line. The water does seem to get a little better the last 100 meters, but maybe a little late to make any impact for these guys.
First 100 and last 100. That middle 1800 though is a little choppy.
So Ohio State clearly dominant here and cruising in to make sure strong finish for their afternoon session. Excuse me. So the finish line cameras panned out a bit, so you get a little better angle on the breadth of the race and what the distance is from 1st to 2nd, and then again we'll see 2nd to 3rd how close it is. So Ohio State through there, and that'll be a good, expected to be about a 18 second margin with 2nd. Again, that's Syracuse now in 2nd, coming through just about one more buoy there to cross, I believe, and then about a half length of water back to Penn up in lane 2, and then UCLA certainly within a length there of Penn. UCLA came on a little bit strong, came on strong towards the end there as well for 4th, and then Tennessee looks to be 5th with UCF's B entry to be 6th.
It's definitely one of those picturesque rowing shots here at the finish line with the angle of the sun and the water.
Yeah, and unlike this morning where you could kind of see who was where, you've got kind of silhouettes here with the sun coming at you. So it's a fixed platform at the finish line, but you have to trust the lanes there and who's doing well. When we get some close races, it might be a little tough to figure out who's where, but Again, picturesque certainly, but the finish line camera is dealing with sun until it sets here. So we'll start to set up the second race of the 2v4. So that's going to be lane 1 Cornell, lane 2 Central Florida's A boat, lane 3 Indiana, lane 4 Texas, lane 5 Louisville, lane 6 Columbia. So Texas also won their heat this morning, and then next fastest time, again, for those who believe in the comparison, Louisville was about 10 seconds back, a different heat. So it should be very competitive for, if you believe the times, from a couple of spots in the middle of the pack here. But Texas certainly the favorite going into this race in the second heat of the second varsity 4.
You'll notice the launches that are following them off the start. One of them is the starting launch, and they're filled with the referees here that we have on race day that are making sure the race is fair, boats stay in their lanes, and that there's no breakage. We mentioned the breakage point, which is 100 meters, the first 100 meters of the race. If something breaks inside the boat, the referee will call them back to the start, and they will attempt to restart the race.
So similar to Texas' other race with the Knob States as well as Ohio State, Texas coming out to an early lead here, let's say 6 seats on the field. Second looks to be Louisville right now, so looks like it's about 250 in, I believe. Texas 6 seats up, 5-6 seats up on the field. Louisville in second, let's say they're about 4 or 5, well, 3 or 4 seats up on Columbia, certainly in the mix, as well as Central Florida and Indiana's boat. Cornell also in the mix. So early, really that 2nd to 6 is somewhat competitive, with Texas the only clear leader at this point. So this is a close-up here on Cornell on this near side. You can see the intensity, and again, we've talked about this a bunch, but with the coxswains looking left, right, trying to figure out what's going on, keep the rowers apprised, as well as keep them in focus and technically doing what they need to do. So Texas there, let's say 3/4 of a length up on Louisville. Texas again, certainly fast this morning in the second varsity 4. So let's say they're just about a full length on Louisville, and Louisville just about a full length there on the inside lanes. Looks like lane 1 maybe, Cornell maybe in third right now, but a close battle between Cornell, Central Florida, Columbia there in Indiana for that 3rd through 6th spot. So as we pan back to the front, Texas up by say just about open water, very close to that, and Louisville is certainly a strong showing with open water there from 2nd to 3rd.
Looks like the race is taking place in between 4th, 5th, and 6th back there. It's pretty close.
Yeah, so Louisville continues to extend out from 2nd to 3rd. Texas continues to extend from 1st to 2nd, and then that looks like lane 1 still. Cornell sneaking in on the camera, very close there with the far lane of Columbia, certainly the battle. Indiana likely in 5th there, and maybe Central Florida has fallen just slightly off the pace over in lane 2. So again, tight battle there, and you get a sense of kind of that buoy line, that red line right there is kind of the equal straight shot. And that shows you how close that Cornell and Columbia are for that 3rd spot.
Yeah, that Cornell coxswain will definitely be very aware of where Columbia is and letting the women in her boat know what's going on and how close they are, and if they're taking seats or if Columbia is taking seats. Keeping them apprised of what is happening outside, but yet keeping them focused, like Steve said, on what's going on inside their own boat.
So still looks like Cornell maybe just slightly up on Columbia for that 3rd spot. And again, when you start looking at who qualifies for tomorrow, that 3rd spot may be very important to be the 7th entry into the grand final. Certainly tomorrow there's A, B, and C finals, so getting into the A final puts you really a step ahead of everyone else we need to for the team competition. So again, Texas now clearly out. Texas and Ohio State are certainly going to have a battle tomorrow in this event. Certainly looking ahead for that. So just here the third 500s, we switch the results from the first heat. Ohio State was 7:08.7, fast time for a second 4, even with wins. Syracuse 7:26.3, Penn was 7:31.4, UCLA 7:32.8, Tennessee 7:40.7, and Central Florida's B entry was 7:44.7.
Yeah,
so
these times are looking like some 20 seconds faster than this morning's time.
yeah, Ohio State was maybe actually just a little bit faster, I think, based on kind of the wind and where everyone was. But this is one of those windy conditions, I think, and Megan, you could probably speak to this better than I, but the wind helps to some extent, but also only helps so much because it can get choppy and bouncy.
Right, yeah. A tailwind does typically make it faster, but if it's the faster the tailwind doesn't necessarily mean the race is going to be faster in relation to that. Sometimes the tailwind can get a little too quick, and it actually can slow you down a little bit because it's hard to deal with the conditions and the quickness of how your blade is moving through the water.
So now again, in the third 500, Texas clearly out, Louisville clearly second, and then it looks like Cornell still up on Columbia here from this angle. You see that line right there is kind of that straight shot. So Cornell has maybe let's say 3 or 4 seats there on Columbia for that third spot. It's certainly the driver for this afternoon. Cornell was 6th in their heat this morning, while Columbia was 3rd. So Cornell trying to move up maybe to the B-level final if they can, based on a summation of points based on places. Looks like well, that's still a shot of Cornell and Louisville there. So Louisville's certainly up because of the angle. Texas there entering the last 500. Again, still can see Gus there, but Texas handling this quite well as they push to the last 90 seconds or so of this race.
A lot about racing in conditions like this is staying composed and having confidence in your ability and making sure you're staying focused on the woman in front of you and moving with her and not kind of going off on your own. And Texas appears to be doing a very good job of that.
And Megan, we kind of see the boats coming up here on the far side, usually rooting for their teammates. And what kind of jolt do you get when you see having teammates rooting for you as they come up?
It's so much fun when you hear. So at this point in the race, you're in a significant amount of pain. So as these Texas women go by their teammates, they're definitely cheering for them and giving them a push and a little boost of adrenaline as they go towards the end of the race and kind of taking their mind off of the pain a little bit.
So as we pan back here again, Texas clearly in first, Louisville second, Cornell clearly in third, Columbia clearly in fourth in that battle for fifth, sixth. Indiana, last time we looked, was in 5th, Central Florida in 6th. So a little bit of more separation this race than some of the other ones in clarity for places. But we see in the last 300 sometimes boats have come back and really on the inside and be able to show their success there. So Texas in the white on the right of your screen. That's certainly the leader here, and again trying to match Ohio State's 7:08 time from the first heat.
You can see the shadows on the water, how right about, I think 200 meters to go or so, it looks like there's that line across the water, and that's where it kind of becomes a little bit more protected. And so Steve mentioned that some of these teams have been able to come back at this point and really take advantage of the calmer conditions.
So Texas almost done here, last 100 meters or so, trying to finish this out and in clean fashion, really just get back and recover for tomorrow. It's in the mid 80s, so it's a little bit hotter than maybe Texas is used
Texas,
to it,
it's cool.
Aren't quite as used to that. So Texas coming to the last buoy line here, and an impressive performance by Texas. Louisville, again, they were this morning 3rd in their heat, but going to finish 2nd here in this heat. So that should help them get to the A final tomorrow for the second four. Hopefully, it's going to be close between them, depending on the other races. And 3rd will be Cornell. Again, they were 6th this morning, so nice job here finishing 3rd. Columbia will be 4th coming through, and then looks like Indiana should be 5th there. And then Central Florida should be 6th there, I believe. So Central Florida just coming through at this point. So that's the second heat of the second varsity four. The third heat, we'll probably get to that right away here. Lane 0, Tennessee, their B entry. Lane 1 will be Clemson. Lane 2, Oklahoma. Lane 3, Duke. Lane 4, Virginia. Lane 5, Gonzaga. Lane 6, Navy. So in this heat, obviously, you'll see the start already, but we had 3 second-place winners or second-place finishers and a winner. So it should be a good battle here at times, certainly very competitive. You had 3 boats within about 0.2 seconds from the morning heats. Actually, you had 4 boats within a second, so it should be a great battle here. And you see it earlier on starting. It looks like in the lead there, maybe Virginia just a seat or so up on Oklahoma. Duke right in there in that mix, and Duke had the fastest time this morning, so of this group. So it certainly should be continuing to move through. You see Duke starting to move back just a little bit on the 2 front runners. So Virginia, let's say 3 seats up on Oklahoma. Oklahoma maybe a half seat up on Duke. Duke, let's say 2 seats up on a combination of Tennessee, Gonzaga, Navy. Clemson maybe a couple seats back, but Clemson's time this morning certainly put them in the mix, so they were pretty strong in the second half this morning. So this should be probably, unlike the last race where it was a bit of a spread, this should be a close battle between them. And Duke, as we said, with the fastest time this morning, continuing to move back on the field. Duke now maybe a seat up on Oklahoma, and now move back to within 4 of Virginia. So Duke quite consistent on their approach, and should see them continue to move. So 3rd Oklahoma, And then fourth, a battle between Tennessee, Gonzaga, and Navy there. But Clemson's certainly not out of the mix either. Clemson was in that tight time this morning across the field. So Clemson also, like I said, second half. So we're about 600 meters in. And the field separated a bit, but certainly not unreasonably so. Duke continued to move back on Virginia. Let's say Duke's 3 seats out on Virginia. And Oklahoma's coming back on Virginia just a little bit as well. Let's give Virginia a 2 to 3 seat lead over Duke. But it looks like Virginia's responded to that move a bit. So let's say actually back out to 4 seats now. Duke maybe, let's say, 4 over Oklahoma. Oklahoma maybe 3 over, I believe it's Gonzaga over there. And then Clemson and, Tennessee, Clemson, Navy, all fairly close there for the 5th spot.
If you're watching from home, you may notice the trend that the boats in the middle of the course seem to be pushing out to a lead more so than the ones on the side, and that is not because the lanes are unfair. That's the way that the boats are seated based off of times from this morning. Typically, you put your the faster boats in the middle lanes, and then it goes down from there, working towards the outside.
So Virginia had pushed back maybe that 5-6 seat lead versus Duke, but Duke now certainly stopped in that move, and this should be a really good battle in the ACC for Virginia, Duke, as well as Oklahoma, who has not faded much at all. So maybe let's say 750 in or so. And Virginia, let's say 6 seats up on Duke. Duke maybe 6 or 7 up on Oklahoma. Oklahoma maybe let's say 5 up on Tennessee. Excuse me, I keep saying Tennessee. Clemson's entry there in lane 1. But Tennessee again not far out of the mix. It's just on the near side. It's tougher to see their bows were coming down. Tennessee looks to be in a battle for 6th there, or 5th really with Navy. So Duke coming back just a little bit on Virginia there again, angle-wise, still probably 6 seats out, but in the battle there. And then that battle for 4th between Gonzaga and, well, really just across the board there, the battle for 4th. So Clemson in there with Gonzaga, maybe for 4th, the battle for 5th. So as we pan back here, it looks to be Navy in 6th. Well, Navy and Tennessee battling for 6th as well. So now in the third 500, again trying to match some of the times from the previous race. The first one of the second varsity 4s was 7:08, and still waiting on the second heat of the varsity 4 their times. But again, on the lead here, looks to be Virginia and Duke. Virginia's still up by, let's say, maybe 3 seats there at that point. Duke is certainly pressing back into them, and maybe separating out from Oklahoma. So the second heat of the second 4, just times quickly. Texas was 7:14.7. Second place was Louisville, 7:25.7. Third was Cornell at 7:32.2. Fourth was Columbia, 7:36.1. Fifth was Indiana, 7:40.8. And 6th, Central Florida, was 7:49.7.
Looks like Duke and Virginia are locked in a nice battle here.
Yeah, probably about 750 to go, and Duke's been continuing to push Virginia this whole way. Virginia maybe eked out a couple extra seats there in the 500 to 750, but then Duke's really been pushing them all the way through here, and maybe actually made it harder for everyone else just to stay in that race, because the two of them are going at it to spread the race out.
One of the novel things about rowing races is, from an athlete's perspective, is that if you are in the lead, you can see if someone is coming up on you, versus, say, a running race, you're not really sure if someone's coming until they have passed you. But during a rowing race, you can see if boats are moving towards you, and it can be hard mentally to stay focused on what you're doing and what you're trying to execute as you see boats come closer towards you.
Yeah, and there you see Clemson. Looks like they'll be fighting for that 4th spot, trying to stay up with the 3 leaders there, some combination of Duke, Virginia, and then Oklahoma in 3rd. Clemson staying in that battle for 4th, and it's still too close to call there for the leaders between Virginia and Duke. That'll be one of those last couple hundred meters really determine that, but neither one's really correct. Both have fought well in these conditions to stay up there. They now have open water back to 3rd, with Oklahoma being 3rd. Now we switched the camera at the last 500, in fact, about 350 to go. And this angle won't give you justice to how much of a battle it's been for 1st and 2nd, between Duke and Virginia and Duke.
It's all about being relentless here.
So as you see, one way to look at it, as they enter the orange buoys there, it looks like Virginia's going to enter that before Duke there, just slightly, so maybe an edge slightly to Virginia, a couple seats, as we enter less 250 or so. So Duke's maybe moved back from 6 back to, let's say, 2 or 3 back. So a pretty tight battle again, continuing, and both of us want to get the win to help them for tomorrow. So let's give Virginia a couple seat edge over Duke, but Duke has certainly put on a good show here.
Yeah.
3rd, let's say Oklahoma still. and then get battle with Clemson and Gonzaga for that 4th spot.
These girls will really definitely be feeling it in their legs right now. It is quite the race for first that's going on, and
So Virginia has a couple seats here as we push to the last 100 or so. So let's say 3 seats to Virginia, 4 seats to Virginia as we go to the last 100 meters. So both are, checking the rate here, probably in the mid-30s or so.
they're full on
38
sprinting.
or so.
Yeah.
So let's give Virginia a 3-seat lead here as we go to the last buoy marker. But a nice job by Duke to push them all the way to the line.
That was a great race from start to finish for those two crews.
So Duke's second. Let's say Oklahoma here third, and certainly not far off. Clemson over in the far side, in 4th. Gonzaga 5th. So good battle there. That was continuing for 4th and 5th. And then for 6th between Tennessee and Navy, maybe fell just a little bit off. It looks like Navy will be 6th there, and then we'll have Tennessee here in 7th coming through. So again, the winner of the first heat here was Ohio State in 7:08. Texas was 7:14, and as Tennessee comes through here, we'll look to see the time for Virginia now. Neither Ohio State nor Texas were pushed through there, so it should be a good comparison of times. Next, we'll enter the NCAA events with 3 heats of the varsity 4, 3 heats of the second varsity 8, and 3 heats of the first varsity 8. So we see them lined up here for the first heat of the first varsity 4. Lane 0, Minnesota. Lane 1, Tennessee. Lane 2, Syracuse. Lane 3, Ohio State. Lane 4, Louisville. Lane 5, Penn. Lane 6, Clemson. Ohio State had the second fastest time this morning. Certainly won their heat by a significant margin. So Ohio State likely the favorite in this race, but certainly everyone else pretty close, within a couple seconds behind them. So it should be a good battle there. Louisville had put up a good time as well in the 3rd heat, so it should be close. So just about ready for a start here. Looks like even maybe a little calmer there.
Yeah, it looks like it is starting to kind of calm down a little. I think the wind prediction was that it was going to dissipate throughout the evening.
Yeah, I think if you ask the locals here, they tell you around 5:45 it starts to get better.
Nice.
So again, maybe put the less experienced athletes have to deal with the rougher water, which has never seemed fair. But
yes,
it's part of the game here that goes on.
I was talking with some of the coaches on land about how when I was in Rio, it was funny, they sent the singles out into the worst conditions and then sent the 8s out. Seemed rather unfair given the size of the singles and comparatively to the size of the 8s. So a little bit of a delay here maybe.
Yeah, and actually you can even see here that where it's very calm, just starting to get calm in spots, and then there's starting to be gusts behind it, so certainly less than it was before. So just we'll give you some times here. We're waiting for the start. In the 3rd heat, the winning time, Virginia 7:22.8. Second place, Duke 7:23.8. So second, first to second. 3rd was Oklahoma at 7:32.8. 4th was Clemson 7:36.8. 5th Gonzaga 7:37.8. Navy 6th at 7:50.4. And then Tennessee's B entry 8:03.1. So Ohio State are the fastest heat of the morning. Of the afternoon, excuse me. To be fair, the winds may be dissipating a little bit between races, but we'll let the coaches worry about how the times compare as get a little bit slower from the first heat to the 3rd, and may see that trend continue here. So I have a start here in the first heat of the varsity 4. And again, we started 30 minutes late because of the wind, so if you were tuning in looking for the 2Bs right now, just a little bit later with the 4s at this time. So off the line, let's say, maybe 250 in or so, plus or minus. Expect Ohio State to be a little bit of an early leader, but maybe a seat or so in Ohio State's favor. Syracuse right with them, though. Louisville and Penn also close. And in lane 0 on the near side, Minnesota also off the line and fairly quick. So let's give Ohio State maybe a 2-seat lead over Syracuse. Syracuse maybe a half-seat lead over Louisville, very close there, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. Penn and Clemson also right there. Tennessee may be slightly off the pace, but not significantly so at this stage. So, Megan, if you can speak just briefly about kind of that jolt you get when you get the lead there in the first 250, and how you can manage expectations, but also confident because of it.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you are told that your bow ball is in front, it gives you a little bit of jolt of extra energy, a little extra push to keep going, and it's a level of confidence boost that you can get that you can help carry you through the middle of the race, which is great. So these women here are looking to get that extra boost by having their coxswain tell them if they're walking on crews or if their bow ball is in front.
So Ohio State maybe 3/4 of the length up, but a very good battle here for second between Minnesota, Syracuse, and Louisville, and then Penn maybe a couple seats back for that. Let's put Louisville in second, maybe just let's say 6 seats behind Ohio State, still in that battle, and maybe come back just a little bit through that portion. They've moved out just a bit on Syracuse as well. Louisville and Syracuse will obviously see each other once again here in a couple weeks for ACCs, so maybe for seeding for that race, this is certainly important for them. Minnesota and Penn in that battle for, let's say, 4th and 5th, and then the 6th and 7th also close between Tennessee and Clemson. Again, the times you see as we get further up the ladder, meaning from the 4 to the second 8 to the first 8, these races usually get a little closer from places 1st to 7th as the athletes get maybe a little more experienced and used to these conditions and competitiveness. So again, Ohio State in the lead. Let's give them just about a length up on Louisville. Louisville in second, and again the battle after that is fairly close between Syracuse, Minnesota, and Penn. So Louisville clearly in second now. Looks to be that Syracuse in third. Let's say they're about 5 seats back, then a couple seats up on that battle for 4th between Penn and Minnesota. So Ohio State's starting to extend, and again, winds look a little better, I think you'd say, Megan.
Yeah, it looks like it's dying down a little bit out there. You can see the what's probably the second varsity 8s warming up on the far side of the course, heading up to the start line, finishing their warm-up, getting ready to race.
So Minnesota staying right in this mix again. It's a little deceiving with that lane 0, but if you look over there, they're certainly right in that battle for third. They probably come back just a little bit. Might be, gosh, between all 3 of those, I'm not sure there's much difference between Minnesota, Syracuse, and Penn for that 3rd, 4th, 5th spot. And the battle for 6th, really, between Tennessee and Clemson is also fairly tight. Let's give the edge to Tennessee right now in that. So entering the 3rd 500 here, Ohio State rowing well and confident out in the field, which you would have expected from this morning's results. And still have to do it. So
yeah, you still want to put up a good time here. So it's actually very hard to continue to push away once you have open water, and not just kind of be comfortable where you're sitting, but just continue to create more and more distance between the crews as you move down the course.
So let's give that edge for 3rd to Minnesota, just maybe a seat or 2 up on Syracuse and Penn. Again, from that far side, in some ways it's easier because you're not dealing with the fray. In some ways it's harder because you're not right in the middle of the race. If they're fairly aware mentally, they can just race and not worry about it and not get sidetracked. But also sometimes it's a little bit easier to be in the middle and feel what's going on. But give credit to them on this side. And to be fair, Penn has the same challenge over there. They're kind of a little bit on their own, maybe not feeling Louisville too close, but staying right in it. So again, let's say Louisville's second. I actually might give the edge to Penn now in third on the shore side. Let's put Penn in third, and then a good battle with 4th between Minnesota and Syracuse. But Ohio State clearly ahead here as we get to probably the last, 500-600. Ohio State just dominant this race as they've been in every race so far this weekend.
They'll be looking to race a clock. These, I would imagine, a lot of these women are have their eyes set on trying to make the second varsity 8. So they want to put up a good time here. They want to have a good showing.
So now Ohio State in the last 500, certainly trying to continue to open that lead up. Confident position here, and make sure really that they don't mess anything up. I mean, it sounds silly, but at the end here, when you have a lead like this, it's more just be safe and be stable. So over here, looks like Louisville's still in that 2nd spot, and then Penn still in the 3rd spot in the yellow boat on the far side. Let's put Minnesota in 4th, Syracuse in 5th, and then that battle for 6th is, let's give the edge maybe just to Tennessee over Clemson, but quite close for that 6th spot. So as we shift here now to the finish line camera with about 300 to go or so, 350, you can start to see here the spread that Ohio State has for that lead. So Ohio State first, let's say, 5-6 lengths of water, pretty dominant. Again, the time this morning shouldn't surprise anyone if they are ahead here.
Looks like they're pretty comfortable here at 34, 35 strokes a minute. Not really pushing the rate to the line here with a lead like this.
So about, let's say, 150 or so to go Ohio State up. Louisville still looks to be in second there. Again, Minnesota on the top there. They look to be in fourth, I believe, from last time we looked at it. So again, you can get a sense of kind of the angle. The course is straight, but the river isn't straight, if that makes sense. So Ohio State, let's say good 6 or 7 lengths up now, and now just going for time to finish this off. So Ohio State clearly here, and then we're going to see Louisville come into our frame here in a moment in second, unless something's changed there in the last few strokes. So Ohio State finishing up. Looks like one more buoy line to go, and so we'll see what their time matches up with their second four, which had a very impressive 7:08. And so panning back here to Louisville in second. Penn will be in third there in that yellow boat. So Louisville finished up with, let's say, about 5 seats up on Penn. So Louisville through, Penn through, and then this will be Minnesota in fourth, and then Syracuse in fifth, and Tennessee who pushed back there into sixth, and Clemson just off there in seventh. So pretty tight race there from let's say third to even second to seventh. So we'll line up here the second heat of the varsity four. This one should be very competitive at the front end of it based on times. Oregon State lane 0, Central Florida lane 1, Wisconsin lane 2, Texas lane 3, Duke lane 4, Gonzaga lane 5, Navy lane 6. So this morning Wisconsin had the fastest of the 3 heats with 7:06. Texas won their heat by open water at 7:10. So should see a good battle there out of the middle. Duke was second in their heat with 7:16. So again, certainly all 3 different heats, so the times may not match up fully. So it looks like we're about, let's say, 300 in, 350 in. Wisconsin maybe a couple seats up there on, I believe it's Texas, and then Duke looks to be in third, so 3 fastest times. Looks to have separated themselves from the field early on just a little bit here. Should be a good battle here. You can see those, and again, lanes 2, 3, 4 right in the middle of the course. As Megan alluded to, that's based on seeding. And then just as you come back in the frame, Oregon State there in lane, Central Florida in lane 1. Oregon State's in the orange here on the near side, lane 0. Also had Gonzaga in there in that mix early on with Navy. So good battle for first, second, third, and then a good battle really 4 across behind them for third through 7th. So Wisconsin's starting to move out just a bit more. Texas starting to move out on Duke a little bit more. So maybe some separation first to second and second to third. In a battle like this, when you come in, you don't really know that you see times, but you don't know how real they are. How much does that influence your thinking, Megan, as you try to race?
We tried to not focus on the times because you just don't know what happens. You don't know if there was a gust of wind. You don't know if someone caught a digger. You don't know if the winds died down or picked up. So it's really kind of not about the time that was posted before you, but it's about posting the best time that you can with the group of women that you're in your boat. So from a personal perspective, I tried not, and my teammates and I tried not to focus too much on the numbers and play the number game and be like, oh, well, they were 3 seconds here, faster here, 2 seconds slower here, and really just race our race.
So get back to action here. Wisconsin, let's say they're about 3 seats up on Texas, and maybe even a little less, 2.5 seats depending on the angle there. But Wisconsin and Texas likely to battle that out. That's separated from Duke, and Duke is going to be key to stay kind of out of the fray and stay in that third position, not let the battle that's going on, good battle from 4th to 7th, impact them. Let's see, Oregon State may be slightly off the pace, but really, I mean, all 4 of those boats from 4th to 7th are certainly battling it out. You get a sense here that those guys all want to have a shot to move on to the mid to top level finals as well. So Wisconsin in the lead by a seat or 2, and Texas certainly impressing them. Texas has had a great day so far, and so has Wisconsin for that matter. Wisconsin won all their heats this morning as well. So really 3 teams winning all their heats: Ohio State, Texas, and Wisconsin. And when you start to have them battle each other here in this, you'll see us again, the 2V and the 1V with Texas and Wisconsin facing off today. So Duke in third, Duke solidly in third there, but again trying to make sure they get a shot to get to the A final. So now you see that 4th through 6th, pretty good battle, and again 4th through 7 even. Oregon State's still not too far off that pace. A little tight for us to call for 3rd through 6th. It looks like Texas may have just gone through. Well, I'd say it's very close. I take that back. Wisconsin maybe still a seat or 2 up on Texas. As we switch cameras there, so give Wisconsin that edge, but Texas is not falling off that at all. Maybe 2 or 3 seats in Wisconsin's favor. Texas trying to press all the way there. So third 500, quickly will give you times from the last race. Ohio State won in 7:07.2. Louisville 7:21.4. Penn was third in 7:22.9. Minnesota was fourth in 7:28.6. Syracuse was fifth in 7:31.6. Tennessee was sixth in 7:32.7. And Clemson seventh in 7:35.3. So pretty tight second to seventh there in that previous race. So again, third 500 here. You're seeing that battle here for fourth, fifth, sixth. It looks like Central Florida maybe nabbing that fourth spot. Very close out there between Gonzaga and Navy for that fifth and sixth spot, with Oregon State in seventh there. So again, Central Florida, let's put them, let's say they're fourth, but anyone fourth, fifth, sixth, that could be quite a battle there as we get going in the last few hundred there, or last 750. Gonzaga was third in their heat. Central Florida was sixth, but the times again put Central Florida right in there, so good for them, and maybe not placing as high as they wanted to this morning, not impacting their afternoon race. They maybe have 2 seats there over that fifth, sixth bunch.
Yeah, this is a tight race back here.
So this is one that we're not going to be able to tell you who's
Yeah.
who's fourth, fifth, sixth until the end. We can certainly tell you the boats in the pack, but it should be interesting to see as we switch the camera here. Wisconsin and Texas battling it out. Wisconsin again, last time we saw was a couple seats up, and again you see here all three of those boats 4 to 6, very close between them. Duke's still in third, so they've kept that separation out from that cluster at 4 to 6. But that's really maybe a half seat between, all those guys, Central Florida, Gonzaga, Navy, very close. So you see across the yellow buoy all kind of the same time there, maybe a tiny, tiny edge to Central Florida, as they're maybe a seat ahead at this point. So now entering, let's say, the last 400, 350 or so. Again, tough to tell here, Wisconsin and Texas, just with the angle.
Reminiscent of that Duke UVA race, a little bit earlier. Pretty
Yeah.
close in the lead.
And it
two
looks
boats.
like Wisconsin maybe slightly up here, just based on the eye. The way you'll get a chance to see is when they hit the red buoys, kind of who hits that red buoy in their lane first. And it looks like, well, we'll wait to hit the red buoy. It's close. It's tough to tell there. I'd give Wisconsin maybe a couple seats from this vantage point. But certainly the two of them, both will move on to tomorrow's A final, get a chance to ride it again. Both were winners, and then first and second today should with the point system. If you finish first and second in both races, you're going to move on. So both these guys are doing well there. So again, some good clearance from second to third to Duke, and then Duke to clearance back to fourth through sixth. That battle that we'll see here at the end. So let's give Wisconsin again a slight edge here as we come through to the last 100 meters or so. Texas will look like they're closing the gap from an appearance standpoint, but they've been pretty consistent across with them most of the way. So Wisconsin coming through here. Let's give them a 4 or 5 seat margin as we come through the line. And so one more buoy here, and there's Wisconsin just under a length win for them. Texas in second, so Wisconsin I think undefeated today so far and everything, if I remember correctly. Duke coming through in third, and then it looks like that Central Florida holding off again. There'll be a little bit of an angle from the boats below, but Central Florida looks to be, well, here comes the angle with, looks like that's Navy. Navy might have nipped Central Florida and then Gonzaga. So Navy looks like a great sprint there. They were a seat or two behind when we saw them prior to that point. And then looks like here, that'll be Oregon State in seventh. So again, the last race, Ohio State at 7:07. So in this one, it'd be interesting to see how Wisconsin compares time-wise. So we'll set up the third heat of the varsity 4, should start momentarily, if not already. Columbia in lane 0, Oklahoma lane 1, Washington State lane 2, Virginia lane 3, Indiana lane 4, UCLA lane 5, Cornell lane 6. This morning out of this group, Virginia had the fastest time, and then everyone else within, 6 seconds between the second to seventh boats that came through. So it should be a really good race here for the third heat of the varsity 4. So Megan alluded to this morning, but you see kind of different colors of boats, different manufacturers. Virginia traditionally rows in the gray Hudson boat, and then Indiana a lot of times rows in the yellow there, so the Epochers. So a little bit difference going on there with the type of hull.
It's very much like brands of cars. There are slight differences to the makes and models of these boats, and it's very like getting a different brand of car.
So this morning, Virginia lost to Wisconsin by a couple seconds, but had one of the top 4 times. So certainly expect them to be maybe favorites here. But lane 1, Oklahoma, who's been doing well in their 4, as you saw in the second 4, Oklahoma did quite well. They're pressing them early as well. Lane 2, Washington State right in that mix there. Columbia right in that mix there again. All these guys had pretty quick times this morning, so you don't expect anyone to fade off the pace here. Again, the higher up the level you go, the more competitive you see these races, and kind of a prelude to NCAAs here at the end of May. So you're seeing the picture there of Washington State. Washington State moving well there again on the near side. It's Indiana on the far side, and those guys are battling kind of the fourth, well, third through fifth, third through sixth. I mean, everyone's really battling pretty close. Virginia has snuck out here. Let's give them a 3 or 4 seat lead. Virginia up on Oklahoma in second. So Virginia trying to again press times here. We're going to compare them in a moment here to the other race, but certainly trying to set the tone through the first 500. Let's give Oklahoma second place through 500. Then UCLA we haven't mentioned here, but UCLA in third it appears. And then again a cluster behind that with 4 boats all very close, maybe too close to call.
It does look like it's getting flatter out there. The conditions are flattening out, which will be nice for these women to work in. So I would imagine the times will probably get faster, obviously, throughout the racing here as the conditions flatten out.
So lane 1 Oklahoma, you can just see the stern of their boat just on the left of the screen. They look to be still in second there. And then you get a battle between Washington State, between Indiana, between UCLA and Cornell on that far side for that third spot. So again, Virginia maybe just about stern out there. You can see kind of the water coming off their stern. Let's give them a length lead to Virginia. Let's give Oklahoma in second, just about a length off. And then a few seats, let's say 4 or 5 seats back from Oklahoma to UCLA in third.
Virginia looking very confident in their rhythm, strong, content with how they're moving their boat.
So again, this spread from, let's say, really second to 7th is pretty competitive there. Virginia length out, but very tight behind them, and certainly expect some changing in the place order here through this portion of the race. So Oklahoma, again, this is, let's say about, I believe, 900 or so in. Oklahoma in second, let's say 3 or 4 seats up on UCLA. UCLA a couple seats up on a combination of Cornell and Washington State there. Virginia just about open water up on the field. So coming through here, let's say just around the 1,000, I believe. And Oklahoma in second there. Let's see here. Washington State, UCLA, Columbia, and Cornell. Maybe Indiana just slightly off the pace there, but not unreasonably so. Certainly a good battle there.
Pretty tight racing through the middle.
And so just give the times from the second heat of the varsity 4. Wisconsin won 7:10.7, so Ohio State is the fastest time so far. Texas was second in 7:13.5. Duke third in 7:26. Navy fourth in 7:31.0. Central Florida fifth in 7:31.5. Gonzaga sixth in 7:32.9. And Oregon State seventh in 7:46.3. So here probably about 800 to go. And again, this shows kind of the battle going on between those places, and it's amazing that if you're 10 seconds faster or 0.1 faster, that place is it's still second to third or third to fourth. And so in a race like this, every place matters, and every tenth of a second matters. Still see Oklahoma here. Let's give them maybe a seat, 2 seats edge over UCLA. UCLA, let's give them a seat or 2 over Cornell over there. But again, on the near side, you can't really see what's going on here with Oklahoma and Columbia and Washington State. Those guys just a little bit out of the frame. But through here, it's exactly there. There you see Oklahoma, who had been second and continuing to move out there. So Oklahoma in second, and again, that push for that third spot will be a good battle there with Washington State, UCLA, and Cornell. So Virginia a little bit out of the frame here. There we go. Maybe a half length of water. So get to about 700 meters to go. Just enough maybe to give them confidence to be able to finish this off. Actually, I apologize, about 500 to go here, getting close to that last 500. So that buoy on the far side. So Virginia in lane 3 in the lead. Oklahoma in lane 1 in second. And actually following the times from this morning fairly accurately, in place-wise at least. So we'll switch cameras here in a moment to get to the last 350 or so. Again, before we switch, looks like Oklahoma in second, and then very tight battle for third. There you see Washington State's bow ball, UCLA, and UCLA has moved out maybe just a bit on Cornell there for that fifth spot. So as we switch here to the last, let's say 300, 350, Virginia just about a half length water up on Oklahoma here. So on the far side, you see Oklahoma, and then again you see Columbia still in that battle there with Washington State and UCLA for that, let's say third, fourth, fifth spot, which should be pretty close here at the end. Again, if you were first and second in both heats, you likely will move to the A final. The whole point system is based on places, so if you win all three, you certainly, morning and afternoon, you'll certainly move on. If you're second in both, you are highly likely to move on, and if you're second and third, that's when it gets a little bit dicey. So Virginia should lock themselves into get into the grand final tomorrow, and then this will be interesting with Oklahoma was third this morning and should be second this afternoon, so they'll be in that kind of 6, 7, 8 type seeds of the boats to see where they progress. So Virginia here in the last 100 or so, again the third heat of the varsity 4. As they come through, just the last couple of buoys here. See how they compare to Ohio State and Wisconsin here in a moment. So Virginia through just about one more buoy line, and they're through. So just about a length and a half of water up on the field. So Oklahoma still in second, but Washington State certainly come back here on Oklahoma. UCLA will be fourth here. Cornell fifth, very tight there. Columbia sixth, and then Indiana seventh. So again, these races here are certainly the harbinger for NCAA qualification, and so if you can have all three boats in the final tomorrow, it should give you a reasonable shot to be confident in proceeding and qualifying when the bids come out in a couple weeks. So certainly we've seen Ohio State, Texas, and Wisconsin show that strength across the program so far. We'll see if that continues in the second 8 and the first 8.
Moving on to the big boats here. The varsity 8s will start with 3 rounds of the second varsity 8 before we end the night with the first varsity 8 racing today.
So we'll set this up with Heat 1. Lane 0 will be Minnesota. Lane 1 will be Tennessee. Lane 2, Syracuse. Lane 3, Ohio State. Lane 4, Louisville. Lane 5, Penn. Lane 6, Clemson. So Ohio State won their heat this morning, and Syracuse was second in their heat. With Ohio State 1 6:25, Syracuse was 6:30. The other placements were kind of everywhere in there. So looking to rebound from this morning and set up a good time for them and good positioning.
Starts a fun part of the race when you're in an 8. There's a lot of activity. It's been likened to a tornado of activity up there. The coxswains are all very loud and shouting to the women in their boat, and you're trying to get your boat up and out of the water and off the line as fast as possible.
So just while we're waiting for the start here, the results from Heat 3 of the first varsity 4. Virginia 7:17, Oklahoma in second at 7:23.9, Washington State in third at 7:25.9, UCLA fourth at 7:28, Cornell fifth, 7:28, 200th of a second back. So that's how close that was for that point, fourth to fifth. Sixth was Columbia with 7:31.7, and Indiana was seventh with 7:34. So it looks like the winds are dying a bit, so as teams compare times, it certainly went slower from the first to the second to the third heat. I'm not making a judgment who's faster or slower, but the times have gone a bit slower from as each heat goes along. And you can see, again, water getting a little bit flatter every race. Every time we're up here, it looks a little bit, I don't want to say glass, but
we're not quite to glass yet.
Glass-esque as we move forward here. So it looks like we're going to start in the second varsity 8, again, Heat 1. These boats count twice as much as the 4 for the points for qualification and for the team championship. So definitely important race here for all 7 of these boats. So again, Lane 0 Minnesota, Lane 1 Tennessee, Lane 2 Syracuse, Lane 3 Ohio State, Lane 4 Louisville, Lane 5 Penn, Lane 6 Clemson.
So for the novice viewers that we have out there, the start of a race, actually the first 5 to 7 strokes, depending on where you are often of shorter length, because you really want to get the blade through the water and get the boat moving forward, because it's a heavy boat. So these women aren't taking full strokes initially. It'll be the first 5 or 6 strokes are a little bit shorter, so they can get their bow ball up and moving out of the water.
Looks like off the start, Tennessee doing well, Ohio State and Syracuse in well, very close between Tennessee and Ohio State. Those are the near side, just maybe, let's say, 4 or 5 seats up. On the far side with Louisville, Penn, and Clemson, maybe in some order of kind of 4th, 5th, 6th. Minnesota maybe just off in 7th, but certainly not too far off. So as you expect, kind of the middle of that, doing well. Tennessee was 4th in their heat, but certainly going off the line, really trying to attack Ohio State and Syracuse. So Ohio State's starting to take charge of the race. Ohio State, let's give them 2 seats up on Tennessee and Syracuse, very close for that second spot. Again, on the far side, a little tough to see, but Louisville in the mix. They didn't have the best race this morning, so certainly trying to rebound there as they were 7th in their heat. And then Penn over there as well, and Clemson also right in the mix, very close for 4th, 5th, 6th.
The girls will definitely be lengthening to their what we call base rhythm here. They take the boat off the line at a higher stroke rate per minute, and then lengthen out anywhere between, I would say, 200 and 300, maybe 400 meters into the race to the stroke rate that they'll carry out through until they sprint at the end here.
So Ohio State now, let's say 7 seats up, 8 seats up on the field. It looks like Louisville is responding to this morning and doing a little bit better here. So Syracuse and Louisville, again, will see each other again this season, but 2 of them battling out for second. And again, getting that second spot really helps potentially get to the final, so that you can have a chance to do well against some of the cross-regional teams that you're trying to qualify against. But Ohio State almost 3/4, well, 7/8 of a length out. Louisville and Syracuse in a very tight battle for second and third, with Tennessee right in that mix for 4th, with Penn, exactly. And then Clemson in 6th, probably Minnesota in 7th there. So again, Minnesota a little bit on the outside out of the race a bit, but if they can look across, gives them a shot there to start coming back into the field. Clemson and aiming to move closer to Clemson there. Tennessee maybe falling off the pace just a little bit here. They had one heck of a start, maybe a seat or 2 off ahead of Ohio State, but maybe took a little bit of energy there to get that lead. Syracuse and Louisville maybe pinballing for that second spot. Again, ACC trying to lay claim to some speed here, but the middle there, Ohio State up by a length, open water now. Second between Louisville and well, we should get a marker here between Louisville and Syracuse. And then 4th back to Penn. So Ohio State clearly out as we enter the third 500. Again, been winning all the races throughout the day. It looks to be that Syracuse may have a slight edge on Louisville there for that second spot. Again, you see the bow ball of Syracuse, Louisville just on the far side, a little tougher to see, but they're also in that mix. Tennessee hanging on though. Yeah. Tennessee had fallen back a bit, but staying in that mix right now. And Tennessee may be in, let's put them in 4th now, ahead of Penn, and also Minnesota doing well. Maybe move past Clemson there for that 6th spot and trying to push back into that 4-5 battle going on. So good race there, and again, these guys know how to race all the way through. That you don't see as much fade with these guys as maybe some of the more or less experienced athletes. So it looks like here Syracuse is starting to take control of that second spot over Louisville, and Tennessee again right in that mix, a couple seats back, but Tennessee certainly game here for that 4th spot. Penn trying to push away from Clemson and Minnesota and stay with Tennessee there, so that should be a good battle at that between Tennessee and Penn at that 4, 5, even 6 with Minnesota here as well. So just at the left of the screen, you see the stern of Syracuse. Again, Ohio State's even further up. So again, Ohio State open water up, Syracuse second. Syracuse was second this morning, so again, 2 second-place finishes should put them in the A final. And again, the second 8, that's an important place to be.
Their coxswain's probably telling them now, as you notice, that Syracuse is just breaking open water against the other crews here, and so she'll be telling them to keep pushing and start to try and reel in Ohio State.
So within the last 500, let's say 400 to go for Ohio State. Ohio State looks like they're coming up a little bit on the rate there. Still a little choppy the last 500 with the water, but handling it quite well. So Ohio State, let's say 350 to go, clearly in the lead. Syracuse looks to be pretty strongly in second, and then good battle behind them with, I don't want to say 5 across, but certainly all within striking distance as we enter the last 300 or so here.
I imagine most of these crews will execute a full sprint towards the finish line. It's always good to practice a full race, regardless of if you're leading by a lot or if it's a tight race, because it's you only get to race a certain number of times a year, so it's never hurts to practice your full race program.
And these guys are in the last probably 30 seconds or so of the race, 35 seconds, so they start to bring that rate up and really if you think about running a, a mile or a 5K, you sprint the last 30 seconds a minute. That's really what they're doing at this point, and feeling the burn, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
So Ohio State here, clearly in the lead. Let's give them maybe a length of water up over Syracuse. Ohio State again won all the races here this morning and afternoon, and one more to go after this one for them to go home in good position.
I always look forward to the last 20 seconds of the race, because the pain has reached such a peak that it can't get any worse. So you're just kind of dealing with it and trying to manage it and waiting and counting the strokes until you cross the finish line.
So Ohio State just crossed there, about, well, let's say maybe 2 lengths between them and Syracuse there. So Syracuse in second. That should help them qualify. It looks like Louisville will be in third and be very close for fourth. By eye, looks like Penn, then Tennessee, then very close also between Clemson and Minnesota. So
I think Clemson might have just gotten Minnesota.
So Clemson hopefully, but Clemson based on Megan's eye, 6th there. So each of the times here quickly. Again, Ohio State, it's like winner of Heat 1, Syracuse 2nd, Louisville 3rd. So second heat of the varsity 8, or excuse me, second heat of the second varsity 8. So lane 0 will be Oregon State, lane 1 Central Florida, lane 2 Wisconsin, lane 3 Texas, lane 4 Duke, lane 5 Gonzaga, lane 6 Navy. So two heat winners in this race with Wisconsin and Texas. Certainly, again, times here, looks like first, second, third should be pretty tight, and then good battle with that 4th spot, again, based on, if you believe, just on times. So looking forward to see this race. Again, Texas is the favorite in this race based on times, but Wisconsin won the 3rd heat and did quite well this morning. So just waiting for times from the first heat to come up so that we can get you those. And again, for those tuning in right now, we had a 30-minute delay due to the wind, so if you were expecting your favorite varsity 8, you might get your favorite second varsity 8 first, and then you can watch them all.
You didn't miss it, don't worry. The second heat is off.
So again, lane 0 Oregon State, lane 1 Central Florida, lane 2 Wisconsin, lane 3 Texas, lane 4 Duke, lane 5 Gonzaga, lane 6 Navy. So past breakage, so past the spot where they can restart the race, so the race is now official.
Point of no return now.
So it looks to be, again, in the middle of the course here, seeing the speed there from Wisconsin to Texas. Not surprising. Wisconsin in the 4s race took an early lead, a couple seats, and held that for a while, and then actually was able to move a bit more at the end. So this should be another good battle here, Wisconsin and Texas. Over, it looks like in 3rd that you've got Duke, who also had a fast time this morning and should be in the mix here based on the morning's results. So Wisconsin may be a seat or 2 up on Texas early.
We'll look to see here who lengthens out to their base pace and what happens. And
Megan, maybe you can talk about how you can, from a racing perspective, you can get in someone's head. Maybe they may be faster, but if you get ahead a little bit early, it may impact how other teams race.
Yeah, I mean you're aware of what's going on around you, and especially if your coxswain is telling you. And so when 2 teams are pretty closely matched, you take whatever you can get and try and build off of that momentum and continue to push with that through down the course. And so if you're up by a seat or even half a seat, it can make a difference in how you feel internally inside your boat and how the boat moves. It can give you that tiny boost of confidence that you need to keep pushing.
So here we're looking at kind of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th place boats. So Duke in 3rd there, Navy having a good start here as well. Navy looks like they're over in lane 6 in 4th place. Then battle Gonzaga and Central Florida there. So it looks like Wisconsin may be moving out just another seat or 2 in this last portion of it. Let's give them a seat edge, well, let's say 2 seats to Wisconsin's favor through probably about 700 meters of the race. Now Wisconsin, again, kind of similar to the 4, got that early lead, and it's almost like they were just confident enough to, we're going to make this happen. Duke in 3rd, maybe a length off those guys, and Duke had raced Texas earlier in the year, so maybe good confidence builder for them to have that experience. So Duke in 3rd, it looks like Navy's in 4th there, but certainly the near boats, tough to tell where Oregon State and Central Florida are because of the angle. But Wisconsin may be moving just a little bit more. Let's give them a 2-seat advantage, 2.5 seat advantage maybe over Texas here as we enter probably about 750 or so into the race.
It's interesting, this latest shot of Wisconsin and Texas has, looks like Texas maybe taking a little bit higher of a stroke rating, whereas the last shot Wisconsin was a little bit higher. So I think maybe they've lengthened out to their base pace here and are starting to do some work.
So on the near side, you see Central Florida and then Oregon State. So Oregon State maybe in 7th, but not too far off. Again, a little bit deceiving with the angle there. Central Florida certainly, you see the buoy line coming up here, but certainly in that mix as well. Wisconsin maybe edging out a little bit more there as we pass 1,000 meters or so. So let's give that edge just a little bit to Wisconsin still. You see right there, maybe 2 seats over Texas at the 1,000-meter mark. So a little bit edge there, and then about a length back to Duke through the third 500, just to give you times from the first heat while they're pushing through the third 500. Ohio State won the last heat 6:29.6. Syracuse was second in 6:37.5. Louisville was third, 6:41.1. Penn was fourth in 6:43.7. Tennessee was fifth in 6:44 flat. Clemson was sixth, 6:45.4. Minnesota seventh in 6:46.1. So back to this race. Again, good battle there. You're seeing on the near side Central Florida and Oregon State you just saw. But from really 3rd to 7th, a pretty good battle there. Looks like Navy still holding on to that 4th spot, having a really good race over there. They were 6th in their heat this morning, but looked like they're responding well to this morning's performance. So again, Duke there in 3rd, just open water back of that great race going on for 1st and 2nd, but staying out of the fray for that 4th spot. So Duke having a confident race there in the middle of the field.
Again, a hard place we've mentioned to be, where you're not next to any crews. You're not in the lead, but you're not last. You're just kind of there working just within your boat, trying to create some moves.
So we're about, I believe, 600, 650 to go here to the finish. And again, you see this battle, and Wisconsin really, I mean, let's give them still 2 seats or so. It may be too close to call based on angle, but that'll be a barn burner to the finish with those 2 boats. Again, 2 heat winners. Both boats have confidence. Both boats raced well this morning, and trying to get that which team is undefeated going into tomorrow morning. So now in the last, let's say 450 or so, looks like Texas maybe has gained a little bit of an edge there in that last couple hundred meters. So Texas maybe a seat or 2 up through that portion of it. Again, we're not really going to know until the end here who takes this thing, but we'll try to use those orange buoys as indicators. So let's give a slight edge to Texas there.
They'll come down to the sprint for sure at this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, Duke 3rd, and then that battle for 4th, 5th is going to be a close one as well. So you get a sense there heading into the last 250. It looks as though it's like Texas maybe just slightly ahead there. So Texas has moved through Wisconsin that third 500. Let's give a couple seat edge to Texas. And then Wisconsin 2nd, Duke 3rd, and then battle that you can maybe see part of up there, Central Florida battling with Navy and Gonzaga for that 4th, 5th, 6th spot. So Texas now in the last, 100, 150. Let's give them a 2 or 3 seat lead now over Wisconsin. So Texas really trying to have that all their boats win as well, similar to Ohio State so far today. So Texas now maybe let's give them 4 seats up on Wisconsin. So really impressive, let's say 750 to 250 on Texas's part. So now maybe 5 seats in Texas' favor. Continue to move here, maybe even 6 as they try to finish off this race.
A solid sprint from the Texas women.
So Texas through now about 8 seats up on Wisconsin through the line. And so we'll have Duke come through, and then it'll be kind of a bang-bang after that. So Duke in 3rd. And again, Duke, give them credit for kind of being their own race there for a lot of it. Looks like Navy 4th. A nice job by Navy. Gonzaga will be 5th there, it appears. Central Florida 6th from that vantage point. And then Oregon State will be coming through in 7th. So that was the second heat of the second varsity 8. So now, excuse me, that was the second heat of the second varsity 8. So now third heat coming up. Set this up. Third heat will be Columbia in lane 0, Oklahoma in lane 1, Washington State lane 2, Virginia lane 3, Indiana lane 4, UCLA lane 5, Cornell lane 6. So here Virginia was second in their heat. Washington State, Indiana, and UCLA were all 3rd in their heats. So it should be a good battle. Time certainly put everyone out there. And Cornell was 5th in their heat, but certainly, and Oklahoma was 4th in theirs, in fact. So it should be pretty tight from 1st to 7th here in this race. So again, third heat of the second varsity 8. and this some good cross regional racing with the Pac-12, Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and Ivy all in this race. So hopefully pretty telling for everyone on where they stand for the year. So in the well, we'll get to the times when we can. We're looking for a start in the again the third heat of the second varsity 8.
The girls are sitting up and ready, looking at the flag, which will drop and signal that they can go.
So we'll have a start there, a little bit of delay there on the camera, but as we get to the through the breakage there, should have a good shot here. Again, expect to be pretty tight here early on, 7 boats across as we take a look at this. So again, some shots there as they come through. Looks like outside there it may be Indiana with a good start, certainly did well this morning, fast times. Washington State up there, looks like on the far side, Cornell and UCLA doing well as well. So may get a shot here as we come through here. Hoping to get a chance here with, gosh, a couple hundred meters in. And Megan, talk about it to, like, you know, the fans don't see what's going on, but the rowers are still feeling everything right now. And they don't know that we can't see it, but it doesn't really impact what they're doing.
No, it definitely does not impact them at all. These girls are still working through that first 500, getting into the second 500 of the race, where a lot of it will unfold. And continuing. Oh, here we have the feedback.
So looks like we're about 400 meters in. Maybe they're the outside lane's just slightly off the pace versus what's going on there. It looks like that may be Columbia just a little bit off the pace, but certainly right in. I mean, this should be a good battle all the way down, all 7 boats across. Washington State this morning, and almost all their boats start off a little bit slow and then started to move through everyone. It looks like in the lead, Virginia may be 4 or 5 seats up on the field through 500, maybe responding to their second place finish this morning. And then you've got Indiana over there, lane 4. And then Oklahoma, in lane 1. So Virginia, let's give them about a 5-seat margin, maybe 4-seat margin over Indiana and over Oklahoma. And Washington State, again, expect them to come back here second half of the race. They've shown that consistently throughout the day. Then you've got over on the far side, Cornell, certainly with good early going, and Columbia right in there. Columbia coming back here on Washington State a bit. So it looks to be about, let's say, 700 meters through the race or so. And this should be a tight field all the way through.
Yeah, it's going to be fun from the athlete's perspective. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a lot of fun to be up and winning, but this is a real race. This is a boat race. You know, everything's going on around you, and you're exchanging seats with the crews beside you, and it's a lot of fun to experience it.
So Virginia about 5 seats up, let's say 5 seats up on Indiana as well as Oklahoma. So a little bit of lead there, and I'm interested to see if they can continue to press. Very close between for second for Indiana and Oklahoma. And UCLA we haven't mentioned, but they're right in that field as well. So good battle there for second, third, fourth, as well as then lane 2, Washington State. Again, expect them to keep coming. Columbia, again, on the near side for the camera, right in the battle for this as well. So this should be all the way down the course, probably the closest of the 3 races we've seen so far. So let's give Virginia maybe a 6-seat lead over a really tight battle there with Indiana and Oklahoma. Maybe even 7 seats, starting to move here a bit as they enter that's a 1,000-meter mark you see. So Virginia 6 or 7 up on Oklahoma and Indiana, and then here you see Columbia on the near side, Washington State right there, UCLA, as well as Cornell on that far side. So let's give Virginia maybe a 6-seat lead here as we enter the third 500 over a combination of Oklahoma and Indiana. Indiana and Washington State had the fastest times this morning. Actually, Washington State was 4/10 faster than Indiana, who was about second half over Oklahoma. So good battle here. Looks like Columbia's now in 6th there, moved up on Cornell. Oklahoma maybe moving just a little bit back on Virginia. It's tough to tell with that angle, as well as with Indiana there. So those 3 really pressing out on the field, with Washington State starting to come back there maybe a little bit on Indiana as well.
Third 500's probably one of the toughest 500s in the race. You're definitely feeling the burn in your legs, and you have to really commit to continuing to push through that pain and continuing to move.
So here it looks like Oklahoma continuing to press back a little bit on Virginia. Again, good battle there with Oklahoma and Indiana for that second spot. Virginia still maybe, let's give them 6 seats for the lead, but a tight battle, and again the closest of the 3 races so far of the 2V. Washington State in 4th, Washington State staying in contact there with Oklahoma, and UCLA also coming back just a little bit there. UCLA in 5th, with Columbia on the near side 6th, Cornell in 7th. So about, let's say, 6:50 to go. We're going to enter that 4th 500, and this sprint may matter then more than some of the other races we've seen for placing with it being this close. So
definitely.
again, looks like actually I'd give the edge to Indiana over Oklahoma there for that second spot. So so let's give Virginia a little bit of a lead there. Indiana second, Oklahoma third, and Washington State starting to come back here as we kind of expected. In the last 500, Washington State, they may have given up too much ground early, but they are certainly in that battle there for that, well, gosh, let's say third spot. So Virginia, let's give them maybe a 7-seat lead over Indiana over there, and then another couple seats from Indiana over Oklahoma. Oklahoma maybe half a length over Washington State. Washington State a few seats up on UCLA. Columbia 6th, Cornell 7th. So now again, last 300 or so. Again, a little bit of an angle. We'll have to watch for those orange buoys, but let's give Virginia a little bit of a lead over over Indiana and Oklahoma. And again, that Big 12, Big 10, ACC, Pac-12. This is pretty important for who qualifies for tomorrow, and when the selection committee looks at the results here. So last 250 looks like Virginia entering it right there. Can't see Indiana yet on the screen, but they're certainly in the mix and starting to just there left. Indiana maybe coming back just a little bit on Virginia there. So let's give Virginia a little bit of lead. Indiana in second, Oklahoma third, and Washington State continuing to press there on Oklahoma. So about 150 to go, and here comes Indiana as well coming back. So this will be a pretty good sprint from first to fourth. So Virginia, let's give them maybe 6 seats or so, 7 seats with the last 50 meters or so to go. So Virginia 1, Indiana 2, and Washington State continuing to press in Oklahoma. That should be a good race there for third. So Virginia just about last couple of strokes through the line. So let's give them an 8-seat margin to Virginia's favor as they cross the line. One more buoy set right there. Virginia through with about, let's say, a 7-seat margin, 6-seat margin.
Washington
Indiana second, Oklahoma third, Washington State fourth, and then UCLA fifth here. And then looks to be Cornell in 6th and Columbia 7th. So Cornell pushed through in that last little bit as well. So certainly the tightest races of the 2V, but we'll see how those times compare versus the second heat. And I'm not sure I gave the times for the second heat of the 2V.
Well, that's because that third 500 was such a great 500.
Okay. So see if we can get the times up for the third heat of the second heat of the 2V. And again, you see here all 7 boats. I mean, congratulating each other and saying a great race, and see pretty gassed, 85 degrees, and 7 boats across, all giving it their full effort. So times in the second heat, Texas winning time 6:27.9. So far the fastest heat of the 2V. Wisconsin second in 6:30.2. Duke third in 6:38.4. Gonzaga fourth in 6:47.2. Navy 5th in 6:47.4. Central Florida 6th in 6:51.6. Oregon State 7th in 6:59.8. And Megan, if you could just, I think here's a great time to see when the 7 boats finish that close, how they're feeling of excitement, but also holy fatigue.
Yeah, just a lot of fatigue, and obviously satisfaction if you came out on the right side of the other crews. It's the eight's a very special boat. You have a lot of camaraderie within it, and I would imagine some of these women have been around for a little while, so they're probably racing other women from other schools that they know, and so there's a sense of respect and camaraderie amongst them. But you still want to beat each other, but you respect each other's efforts and what's been put out there, especially in a race like this where the result is pretty close.
So it looks like coming from this afternoon and this morning, the boats that will automatically go, Ohio State will be through, Syracuse should be through, Texas through, Wisconsin through, Virginia through, and then it'll be a little bit complicated there for the last few spots based on the placing here. So you guys will be able to look at the board and see there. Actually, officially, Virginia in 6:32.5. So Texas had the fastest 2V time, then Ohio State, then Wisconsin, then Virginia 6:32.5. Indiana second, 6:34.3. Oklahoma third and 6:36.6. Washington State 6:37.2, UCLA 6:41 flat, Cornell 6:45.8, and then Columbia 6:48. So actually, it looks like the top 2 finishers in the races all were first or second in the morning. So they should all 6 should qualify, and then that 7th spot will be based on a complicated formula, which is the tides based on head-to-head result. If they didn't race each other this morning or afternoon, they combine the times from the 2 sessions to see who will move forward. So we'll let the board decide who will be the 7th entry in the final tomorrow. But those will be certainly the 6 that are obvious.
last 3 races of the day here. The first varsity 8s will go off in just a few minutes.
So we'll get started here, and again, these boats are worth 3 times the points of the varsity 4, and 1.5 times the 2 lead. So these races for teams certainly matter. No more for the athletes, but team points certainly matter. So lane 0, Clemson; lane 1, Penn; lane 2, Louisville; lane 3, Ohio State; lane 4, Syracuse; lane 5, Tennessee; lane 6, Minnesota. So here, Ohio State again, 1 in the morning with the second fastest time of the morning, so certainly expect them to be the favorites. Again, for the qualification-wise, should be a good battle. Maybe, well, I don't want to predict, but should be a good race here if Ohio State does what their times showed this morning. So off the line, these boats should be about 8 to 10 seconds faster than their 2V counterparts, depending on the wind. Again, you can see it's not quite glass.
I don't know. Now I think we're bordering on it now. I might give it to you right in this particular shot. This might be glass. It's definitely pretty flat out there. These are nice conditions.
So with that, looks like in the middle there, Ohio State, as expected, out off the line, but Syracuse right with them, stroke for stroke certainly early. Lane 1, Penn, right in that mix. Lane 2, Louisville. Actually, I'm neglecting to see Tennessee, who's had a good start in a number of races this afternoon as well. See if Tennessee can maintain that throughout. Syracuse may be sneaking out on Ohio State, certainly motivated here. After the morning session, they were certainly in the mix, but they looking to put a good performance up here. And Ohio State's usually pretty good second half, so if they can stay in early, they will be able to hold their own. But Syracuse certainly going at it early, and give them credit for not being afraid of top seed Ohio State here.
Yeah, teams off the start often have different plans. You know, some coaches prefer to get up and out and try and hold on, while other teams prefer to not necessarily have a slow start, but maybe are a little bit more methodical off the start and then build as they go down the course. So we'll see how it all unfolds.
So just past the first 500, Ohio State's probably, well, let's just say they're even here. Ohio State maybe a quarter seat ahead, but very close between Ohio State and Syracuse. Syracuse certainly shot out maybe from about 200 to 400, and their settle had a very strong settle. But Ohio State now getting kind of the meat of the race there. So first Ohio State, second Syracuse. Again, based on points, Syracuse would certainly need to get second here to have a good shot for qualifying through. I don't want to say we'll clinch it, but it'll give them a strong shot. After that, you've got Tennessee over there, Penn on the near side, Louisville in there, and then Minnesota, and then Clemson on the near side. So that third to fifth, as always, the cluster middle of the race is pretty key to what goes on here. So third there, it looks like Tennessee staying in that picture. They've had good first thousands. They want to work to keep that second thousand going and stay in that mix. And they were in the mix time-wise in that first race this morning. So hopefully for them, they can keep that going. Ohio State's starting to solidify this lead here. Maybe let's give them a 5 or 6 seat, 7 seat maybe lead over Syracuse. But Syracuse, can they stay confident here and just stay in their race and not worry about anything else going on? And they should be in good position there. So again, Syracuse second. Let's give them open water up on the combination there of Penn and Tennessee. Tennessee's still a little bit ahead of Penn, but Penn's starting to move back a bit on them, as well as Louisville. Louisville's kind of been that 5th spot, kind of just sticking around that 5th spot, and needs to close that gap here with that battle to get there for tomorrow. So again, 6th and 7th, Clemson and Minnesota battling out for 6 and 7 on the outside lanes. So
entering that third 500 here.
Yeah, absolutely, third 500, and so again, Ohio State trying to make it clear where they belong. After I think every boat of theirs has won, and maybe off by 1, but certainly in the NCAA boats they have. So here, let's see, let's say 800 to go. I mean, that battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, Tennessee's still in 3rd, and then on the far side, Tennessee there, then looks like Penn, and then Louisville. So they're really 3rd, 4th, 5th. Looks like Syracuse now clearly second. Ohio State has pulled ahead. They are at the front of the pack.
Looks like Penn, or maybe it's the angle. You're much better at reading the angles than I am, Steve, but it looks like Penn is right there in it, maybe pushing ahead of Tennessee at this point.
Yeah, I think so. I think Penn has definitely gained a ton of ground on them. Let's give Penn and maybe a couple seats now on Tennessee. And then, but also you see Louisville coming back a little bit on Tennessee as well. So if they can slingshot each other on this near side, and Tennessee maybe not seeing that on the left side of them. So Ohio State, there you saw the stern of their boat sneak into the frame, but let's say a half length of water from 1st to 2nd, so a length and a half. Ohio State over Syracuse, but Syracuse now comfortably second, and I don't want to say not worrying, but in a good position where they want to be and continue to build as a program over the last few years that they've done.
Definitely confident in where they are right now in this race.
So last 500 here, Ohio State, open water up, and again, with strong performance this morning, they'd like to match up a good time with their counterparts in the second heat that'll follow. So 400 to go, well, actually maybe 350 to go. Ohio State up, Syracuse second, and then the battle, like Megan, you talked about there, will be really close for third, fourth, fifth between Penn, Louisville, and Tennessee. So again, Syracuse in the orange here on that kind of near side, is in that second spot, and then Penn on that far side, and looks like Penn's still ahead of Louisville, it appears. We're going to see when Tennessee kind of creeps into that frame from the Syracuse side. But Ohio State clearly up. Let's give them maybe 2.5 lengths now, length and a half of water as we enter the last 200 or so.
Women here will definitely be bumping the rate up, taking more strokes per minute in an effort to increase their boat speed. It's interesting to point out, though, just because they're at a higher rate doesn't necessarily mean they're increasing their speed. So their coxswain will be aware of how high they're getting, but making sure they're getting faster as well, and not kind of what we call spinning our wheels here, but really continuing to propel the boat forward.
So Ohio State continued to move here, and as you've talked about, Megan, stepped up the rating here, and not really afraid to sprint. They've got all night to recover for tomorrow. So Ohio State, let's say 2 lengths of water up on Syracuse. Syracuse maybe length and a half of water up on third place there. So last couple strokes there for Ohio State. And we'll see how their times compare to the 2V times from just a minute ago. Ohio State through now, and then here comes Syracuse. So let's say 2 lengths of water between Ohio State and Syracuse. And then third, so anyone's guess here, but it looks like Tennessee came back there in that portion. So good for Tennessee. Third, Penn fourth, Louisville fifth, and then Clemson looks like, well, gonna be a good battle here. Looks like, I don't know that one.
Oh,
Clemson
I can't. That's too close to call.
So we'll let the camera take care of that one. So that angle, Megan, you talked about. Penn looked like they come back some, but Tennessee either rallied or maybe it was a little bit off in the angle, but good for them in that portion of the race.
Yeah, well, I was getting picked on as I was walking through the venue this afternoon about how I kept stressing that middle 1,000, that middle 1,300 meters is my favorite part of the race, and this just goes to show you anything can happen in that middle part of the race. So everyone who was picking on me, it's important.
So we're going to enter now the second heat of the varsity 8. So the penultimate race here. Lane 0, Navy. Lane 1, Gonzaga. Lane 2, Duke. Lane 3, Texas. Lane 4, Wisconsin. Lane 5, Central Florida. Lane 6, Oregon State. So again, 2 heat winners here. Texas and Wisconsin have been pitted against each other in the races in the afternoon. Certainly, you think the leaders may be there based on times, but Duke and Central Florida were quite close to that. Oregon State, Gonzaga, and Navy should all battle here. So
it's fun to be paired in a heat with other fast boats. In my opinion, some people like to wait until the final to see the speed of the other boats, while others prefer to race them early and just kind of test it out and see what's going on.
So with that, the times from the first heat, and we'll run through these quickly as the start for the second one, but Ohio State won in 6:19.4, Syracuse second in 6:26.7, Tennessee third in 6:33.4, fourth was Penn, 6:37.1, Louisville was fifth, 6:37.8, and then sixth was Clemson, 6:32.4, with Minnesota 6:42.6. So whoever got that last stroke in, it appeared, was Clemson.
6:19, a pretty fast time here.
Yeah, about 10 seconds faster than the 2V. Maybe a little less wind. I'll let Coach worry about that.
It's a little glassier out now.
So the second heat here, looks like Texas off the line in a couple seats up on Wisconsin and Duke. So again, expecting the middle of that to be some pretty good speed there from Texas. Again, trying to match with what Ohio State just did a moment ago. So this gives Texas maybe a 5-seat lead over Wisconsin. Wisconsin maybe a 2-seat lead over Louisville. So Texas early going, pushing here, and trying to just continue to extend. The more they can get that early, that they just believe in what they're doing, certainly give them good confidence. Yeah,
definitely a huge boost in confidence if you can get up and out and create a substantial lead by crossing into that second 500. You can feel pretty good. Makes it hurt just a little bit less.
So after Wisconsin, looks like Central Florida and Duke having a good battle. Central Florida may have Duke by 3 or 4 seats there as well. So Central Florida had a good time this morning in the varsity 8, certainly improving in the last year or two. So seeing them try to hang in there with Wisconsin through the first 500. But Texas let's give them 7 or 8 seats here early going. Maybe even, remember, Ohio State was pushed that first 500 by Syracuse. Here, Texas.
Pretty dominant start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hook them on the side of that boat. I like that.
So 8 seats up on Wisconsin there. Wisconsin clearly in second there, with a close battle there, Central Florida and Duke for that 3rd and 4th spot. Then after that, you've got Oregon State on the outside, Gonzaga and Navy on the near side, very close for 5th, 6th, 7th between those 3 boats. So back here, Navy had a good performance in the 2B race, was able to improve from, I think they were maybe, gosh, I can't remember if they were 6th or 7th in the heat, but finished much better there in that in their race, 4th, I believe. So here, I'm looking to see if they can replicate that in the varsity race. Texas now just about a length out on Wisconsin, and trying to push that second 500.
Get some open water, maybe.
That middle 1,000.
That middle 1,000, Steve. See what I'm saying? I'm telling you. It's where the magic happens.
So Wisconsin a length out, and Duke and Central Florida quite close there for that 3rd spot. Again, those two battle. They won't see each other again after this weekend. So again, for seeding and for potential bids, that's really important for those guys. It looks like Gonzaga may be pushing there a bit on this side, lane 1. I'm trying to come in there, and also again, I think it's Oregon State. I'm sorry, Central Florida. I keep saying that wrong. Central Florida out there doing well through this portion. So through the 1,000, open water now for Texas.
Open water for second too. Looks
Wisconsin, yep, open water. And now it looks like Duke is pushing to that 3rd spot over Central Florida by a couple seats, and Gonzaga may be coming back on Central Florida as well. And Navy right in that mix also, and Oregon State. So again, the varsity 8 you expect to be a bit closer than the other boats, and outside of maybe Texas and even Wisconsin had fast times. Should be a good race here from 3rd to 6th. So Duke may be coming back into Wisconsin a little bit. I'd say still a length off, but just with that angle, tough to tell. But let's just say there may be a length, and Wisconsin maybe hasn't moved in the last couple hundred meters.
Looks like they've definitely taken a move, meaning they've increased their boat speed. So we'll see what happens when they come off the other side of it, how the other crews respond.
Yeah, it looks like Wisconsin maybe is responding there. Wisconsin maybe opening it back up to just over open water as they come through here with about, let's say, 700 to go. So Texas clearly in front. Texas with good control of this race. Again, here you can see the tail when we joke about the beginning of the race being a little flatter, but here there is still that push, and rowers handling it quite well here. But Texas open water up on Wisconsin. Wisconsin just about a little open water up on 3rd place there with Duke. And then you see Texas about to enter that last 500 as we get to hearing the fans on the shore.
So hearing the fans will definitely give them a boost in their energy, because like we had mentioned earlier, being up by a decent amount, it's sometimes hard to continue to push and see what you can do as a crew rather than kind of be happy with where you're at. So hopefully they'll get a boost from the crowd, and we'll see some added boat speed from all of these women.
So Duke now is clearly in 3rd. UCF battling with Gonzaga for that 4th spot. And again, that's going to be one of these fairly close to call. Let's give a little bit of the edge still to Central Florida for that 3rd spot. Excuse me, for that 4th spot. So Texas here again, open water, seeing about 300, 250 to go for Texas. Clearly in the lead there. Wisconsin here, who had the 3rd fastest time this morning. Maybe just kind of settling there, confident in that 2nd place, knowing they'll move on here. And then behind that should be, looks like Duke again in 3rd. Still waiting to see kind of where Central Florida has pushed through this 200-meter stretch.
Yeah, it doesn't look like from the stroke rate that Texas is pushing the rate too high here. I think they're just taking it across the line, comfortable with their lead.
So Texas, let's say they're about 2 lengths of water up on Wisconsin. And Wisconsin get comfortably in 2nd, like we've seen in a couple of these races in the varsity 8. Once the top boat got out, the 2nd one felt comfortable and cruised along. And then that battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, pretty close here. Duke's certainly ahead of Gonzaga, but UCF, Central Florida, somewhere in that mix. As we get the camera angle, as we get to the finish line here, it'll come very quickly. So Texas just a couple strokes from the finish here. Texas trying to beat Ohio State's time from the last one. Texas through here. And then we'll see Duke come into the frame. I'm sorry, Wisconsin come into the frame. I apologize. Wisconsin there. And then, yeah, here's Central Florida. So kind of, we're sure quite where they are, but Central Florida 3rd, Duke 4th, Gonzaga 5th, Oregon State 6th. and then I believe Navy here should be 7th there on the far side. So Central Florida stayed in that mix, and again, a little bit tough to tell. They we knew they were in that battle, but they responded well when everyone else come back on them. Duke come back on them. Central Florida responded well. So
that's always hard to do. It's hard to maintain your composure when you see boats start to push into you. So credit goes out to them for maintaining composed and continuing to push back as the boats pushed into them.
So now the last race of the evening, and again the last couple qualifiers for tomorrow morning. Will be coming out of this 7-boat race. Lane 0, Cornell. Lane 1, UCLA. Lane 2, Indiana. Lane 3, Virginia. Lane 4, Washington State. Lane 5, Oklahoma. Lane 6, Columbia. So this one we had 3 second-place crews in lanes 2, 3, 4, all within a couple of seconds of each other. And then UCLA was 4th in their heat, but also not far off time-wise. And we've seen Oklahoma, Columbia, Cornell do quite well in some of these as well. So should be a great last race of the day here.
Should be a great middle thousand, some might say.
So expect the battle to be in the middle of the race with Indiana, Virginia, and Washington State.
See the girls here passing water bottles back. Typically you pass your water bottles up to the coxswain so they're not rolling around in the bottom of the boat during the race.
Just waiting for the start here, the results from the second heat. Texas 6:19.3. So with Ohio State and Texas, we're within 0.1 of each other for the fastest time so far, waiting on this heat. Wisconsin second, 6:25.9, so it's about a second faster than Syracuse this time. Third, Central Florida, 6:31.4. Fourth, Duke, 6:33.5. Fifth, Gonzaga, 6:34.8. Sixth, Oregon State, 6:36.4. Navy, 6:46.7. So it looks to be as though Ohio State will clearly advance. Texas will advance. Wisconsin will advance, and then between Syracuse and then what happens in this race will be the determination of the rest of the boats there. But likely Syracuse and then the 3 boats from here based on what we've seen so far.
Water's looking beautiful out there in that top 500 now.
So off the line, it looks like Virginia maybe well, I'm not sure, a half seat over UCLA, but Virginia, UCLA just slightly up on Indiana. So UCLA's had some good starts here. Lane 4, Washington State, which again seems to have slow starts, but doesn't seem to affect them. Oklahoma right in that mix. Columbia on that far side. And again, Cornell on the near side you can't see, but also right in it here early. So this jumble, and again we talked
lots
about
of noise.
Staying focused to
Yeah.
do when you have 7 boats across. A bit of a challenge mentally for these guys.
Definitely, it is definitely a mental challenge because there's a lot of noise and the coxswains typically are not quiet. So you really have to maintain your focus in your boat and listen, key into what your coxswain is saying. I've had Caitlin Snyder and Mary Whipple as coxswains, and so they were pretty easy to key into. So
you're a really good race here. Virginia maybe a seat out on UCLA. So Virginia looks like maybe responding this morning in both their 8s. And then UCLA maybe 2 seats back, and then you see really lanes 2, 4, and 5. Indiana, Washington State, Oklahoma, all really close there. Columbia maybe just a few seats back of that, and Cornell maybe a few seats back there. But you see how tight this is, and you kind of look at expect the finals tomorrow to be this kind of racing with everyone out there. But Virginia, let's give them maybe a 4-seat lead over UCLA. UCLA maybe a seat or 2 over Washington State. Washington State maybe a seat over Indiana and Oklahoma. But between really 2nd to 5th is very tight there, with Virginia just maybe 5 seats out, but certainly not safe by any stretch of the imagination here.
yeah, Virginia, coached by Kevin Sauer, in his 22nd season with the Cavaliers. Actually, Steve, I don't know if you know this, Kevin taught me how to scull. I've flipped many times in the reservoir. My skill, thankfully, I've much improved since that point, but Kevin dealt with me as a young athlete.
So here, 2nd through 5th, great race there, and really maybe even 2nd through 6th. Cornell maybe a little bit off the pace of Columbia, and but really, I mean, you look across, that's bow balls, 4 boats across between UCLA, Indiana, Washington State, Oklahoma, and Virginia maybe, let's say, 5 seats up on, let's say, Washington State and UCLA, really close there, but Indiana right there, and Oklahoma also, that bow ball over at 5, you can just see it there, but again, that's an angle issue. Oklahoma maybe falling a little bit off the pace, to be fair. And then again, Columbia maybe a length off that pace, and Cornell just off there. So it looks like it's now, let's say, Virginia first, UCLA, Indiana, Washington State, some combination of 2, 3, 4. Give Virginia maybe a 6-seat lead here, and maybe similar to the 2V race in the sense that Virginia pushed out a bit, and then everyone behind him is continuing to not give them that advantage.
Yeah, that's great persistence by these other women to not just let them go and get away, to keep it a race. I mean, it's really what are there, 5 boats across there pretty much for the most part?
Yeah, I mean, really, I think second, third, fourth is a big push,
Yeah.
and you know, this we kind of allude to this, but whoever finishes fourth isn't likely to make it to tomorrow for the grand final. Where second, you're almost guaranteed. So obviously, if Virginia can hold on, that pushes them through, and then between UCLA, Indiana, and Washington State, if either Indiana or Washington State are second, that pushes them through. UCLA, if they can be second, it puts them all in these tiebreakers and kind of crazy math, but they're doing their part there to keep that going. But again, seeing here again, it's a little bit of the angle, but looks like Indiana coming back just a little bit there. Indiana's moved through UCLA a bit. I mean, Indiana maybe coming back on Virginia. Let's say Virginia maybe 4 seats or 5 seats here, but certainly shrunk the lead here to Indiana's credit.
We'll see how Virginia responds to this.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia had maybe 6 or 7, and let's say now it's maybe
2, 3. Yeah.
And again, depends on thing you're looking at. But UCLA and Washington State over there, Washington State again having a good second half of all their races, certainly this morning. That's a good battle there for third. You'd think right now that that Indiana and Virginia would quote-unquote move through, and Indiana continue to move here. The leaders will need to stay pretty composed as we go.
As an athlete, you want nothing more than to try and shake these crews, to try and shake them off so you can start to create some distance. But to the credit of all of these women, no one is backing down here. This is a great race.
You see that bow ball of lane 4, Washington State, creeping back in too. I mean, those guys are certainly not out of it for that. Well, for having a shot to win this thing. This is going to be 3 boats, maybe 4 boats across at that finish line, and it's going to see, as you talked about, who really brings that rate up. So Indiana and Virginia a little bit ahead, and then you've got Washington State and UCLA in that kind of 3-4 spots. Oklahoma 5th, Cornell 6th, Columbia 7th. But I'm sorry, Cornell 7th, Columbia 6th. So here you see them pushing through again. A little bit tough to tell. We're at 250 mark. We've got 300 to go.
It'll be real important for these women to stay together in their boat as they bring the rate up and sprint and not kind of go individually. It'll really help their boat speed. They can't just kind of go off on their own. So
yeah, I mean, this is going to be, gosh, all 3 too close to call here. Looks like they may have UCLA maybe in 4th now. But really, Indiana may have a seat or 2 on Virginia. That's just from the eyes here.
It's a terrible angle.
But Washington State also coming back on Virginia here. This is going to be bang, bang, 1, 2, 3. Let's give Indiana the edge there by a couple seats as we kind of move to the last 100 meters, actually maybe last little bit. But looks like Indiana first, and then Virginia, Washington State. Can Virginia hold? Looks like Washington State's probably in 2nd now. Virginia in 3rd as we come to the last few strokes of the race here. So Indiana came through to win this. So Indiana, well, as the finish line comes here, yeah, Indiana, Washington State, Virginia 3rd, and there's Oklahoma in 4th. UCLA looks like they'll be in 5th here. So that'll be a jumble there for who moves through. Cornell in 6th, and Columbia in 7th for the last race of the day. So we'll stay on until we get times here and start figuring out who those 7 qualifiers are. But it looks like Indiana will move through, Washington State will move through, Texas, Wisconsin, Ohio State, and then between Syracuse, Virginia, those 2 will be close, and then just let the math work out based on points and placing and times. So last race here finished up at 7:30 today, and tomorrow morning the potential to move a little bit earlier. Some weather coming through.
Set your alarms.
Right now scheduled 8:30, but I would certainly look to see. I would check earlier than that because we may have to move earlier for tomorrow morning for racing. So again, we'll get the last times here from the last race.
It'll be interesting to see how they compare. Again, you know, I can only take it worth so much, but having been pushed all the way down with not such big spacing, so we'll see what the times are once they come up here.
So again, tomorrow morning, I would check in online by 7:30. This could move a little bit earlier than the 8:30 schedule. So unofficial, well, I guess officially, Indiana 625.9, Washington State 626.5, Virginia 628.2, Oklahoma 629.8, UCLA 632.6, Columbia 638.1, Cornell 648.4. So Megan, we'll be here tomorrow morning, and
I'll be talking about the Middle 1000 again tomorrow. Everyone get excited.
And thanks everyone for watching. And again, please check early about schedule and time. We expect that the progression, the 1V, may go off first tomorrow. So again, if you're looking to see your favorite boat, please check early and often tomorrow. And have a good night.
Thank you.